All right. So, everyone understands English, right? Whew. Okay, that was my biggest worry coming here. Now, I'm very excited to come to Portugal, and I'm sure that you guys have noticed how much tourism has grown in Portugal just over the last 5 years. So when I was asked to come here, this was already on my bucket list of places to come and visit. So I was thrilled, and I'm extremely happy to be here. I brought my wife and my 15-month-old. So we're all here, and we're all loving it. We've been here for 2 days so far. So let me tell you a little bit about me, because sometimes you see these numbers, and it doesn't really connect. You don't really understand it yet. So when you look at this, and you say, okay, 403 transactions, 120 million in volume. So our average sales price is about 320,000. I'm not sure what that relates to in here, but it's not a huge sales price. We're not selling massive mansions that are super expensive. We're doing a lot of transactions, 400 plus last year. This year we're going to be a little bit ahead of that, so it should be maybe 450 or so. But with that, it took time. So I was selling 4 years ago, I was selling 40 homes a year. And in the last 4 years, I've more than 10x that business. So that's usually where people are like, well, wait, Nick, tell me about that. I want to 10x my business. Let's do that. But let's back up a little bit before that to understand what created that. Because I've been in the business for 16 years. So if I've been here for 16 years, but only the last 4 have you seen explosive growth, what was I doing for the first 12 years? And the truth is, I was with another company. I was with a company that I'm sure you guys have heard of here. It's called Remax. They've got a big balloon, and they're very proud of that. I like laughter instead of everybody going, boo. We don't need that. We don't need that. So I was with them for 12 years. And what I learned was very simple. You run your business however you want, and we don't bother you. That sounds great. I got into real estate to be my own boss. This sounds like a perfect plan. But then I quickly realized, I don't really know what I'm doing. So for 12 years, I just did whatever I thought was, maybe I should try this, maybe I should try this, let's go do this. And I just flew by the seat of my pants. And what I found is every year, after the first 2 or 3 years, I started to get a hang of the actual process. And then every year, I would sell 39 homes. The next year, 38 homes. The next year, 41 homes. The next year, 40 homes. And it was year after year. It was like Groundhog's Day, which is just a day that repeats over and over and over again if you don't get that reference. But it was like the same every time, and I couldn't figure out why I was stuck there. So if you're here in this room and you're feeling like you've hit that ceiling, maybe you've only been in the business a couple of years, but you seem to be doing the same production every year. And you're comparing yourself to last year thinking, okay, did I at least do what I did last year? You're on that same hamster wheel that I was on. So then I came and I found this company, Keller Williams, much like most of you in the room. And I got that book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Seems like a pretty obvious title. I want to be a millionaire. I should read this book, right? So I got the book and I started reading it. And I realized that it's not suggestions. It's not an idea. This is a full business plan of exactly what you need to do and how to grow your business. How to contact and get clients. How to handle those clients once you get them. How to start hiring when you have more clients than you know what to do with. How to do your marketing. How to run your books. How to understand what your P&L should look like. If you don't have a profit and loss statement, then how do you know what you're spending on all the different things? How many people know how much you should be spending on your marketing? I'll tell you, it's 10% of your GCI. I know every one of those numbers because I studied that book and I followed that model. So all of a sudden, for 12 years, I'm repeating the same thing and I'm on that hamster wheel. And then I get this book, and then I go and spend time with Gary, and then I go start learning all these things, and I was like, wow, like my mind was blown. I was with a company that didn't bother me, which I thought was great, and now I'm with a company that's like, we're not going to bother you if you don't want it, but you should read this and see this and look at this and meet this person and go here. And all of a sudden, my life changed. So I would say one of the most impactful things that I've done is going to KW's events. So get in on a plane, flying across the Atlantic, and spending time at some of the KW events. So the reason is because of the people you get to meet. Also here, look around the room. There are people that are in your exact market, but there's also top producers in other markets all over Portugal. You should be connecting with them. You should be learning with them. You should be sharing ideas with them. When at my last company, everything you held tight to your chest. You didn't want to tell anybody what you were doing because if they did it, then you would lose business, right? That's just not the case. There's so much business out there that you can share information. You can, like, if you think about it, how many transactions were done in all of Portugal last year? Does anybody know that number? Take a wild guess, anyone? 200,000? 200,000. Okay, perfect. So a great example. Now we look at how many real estate agents are out there. Now we look at how many of those real estate agents are top producers. I guarantee the very small majority are top producers, less than 10% of the agents out there. If those agents are sharing ideas, their businesses are all going to grow. As the tide rises, all ships rise. Don't think that you're on an island and you're doing something different than anybody else. Instead, start looking at the ways you're succeeding and start talking to other people to see the way they're succeeding. See what you can connect and how you can see what you can share and what that looks like. All right, so now let's talk about as we're going into this new market. So real estate is changing. Does everybody feel that in the room? Things are different. And here's a perfect example. I flew here on Monday night. I landed. Did I hail a cab? No, what did I do? I called Uber. Why would I use Uber instead of a cab? Simpler, cheaper, it's a great platform. They show up the second that I'm ready. I press in a few buttons and it says, your car will be here in 2.3 minutes, and it shows me the car driving. I know exactly what it is. I get there, the driver greets me, puts my luggage in, hands me a bottle of water, and drives me and drops me off directly in front of my hotel. Did I stay at a hotel? No, where did I stay? An Airbnb. Well, what? I went to a stranger's house that I found on the internet, and I'm standing here, nobody murdered me? That's crazy. So I'm sitting in our we have a place right by Edward Park, Edward the 7th, I heard, right there. And I'm standing on the balcony looking over at this park, and directly to my left is the Ritz and the Four Seasons. I'm not staying there. I'm in an Airbnb. Now, why would I choose that over the hotel? It was more convenient. We have 3 rooms plus a kitchen. So with a little baby who likes to go to bed much earlier than I want to, it's good to have a second room so he can go. It was less expensive than the hotel. And it's just much more of a cultural feel. I feel like I'm part of the community. I woke up this morning, I walked across the street, I picked up some stuff at the little grocery store. It feels like I'm here living in Portugal, and it's great, and I love it. So then, last night, after my baby went to sleep, I turned on the TV, and guess what I watched? Let me just preface, I turned it on, and it told me exactly what I wanted to watch and where I was in my last episode. Netflix. This is so great. Now, why did I do Netflix and not try to drive and find a Blockbuster? Because they're not here anymore. So here's what you're seeing over and over and over. It is consumer-centric. Everything is about the consumer experience. The hotel was you come to us. The taxi cab was you come to our stand. The Blockbuster was you show up and find the movie and hope that they have a copy for you on that Friday night when you don't want to do anything. All of that was business-centric. And what we're seeing is the entire world is becoming more consumer-centric. So let's look at real estate. What are you doing to become more consumer-facing? There's a lot of new technology coming, and it's really impressive stuff. Guess what it will not do? Replace your hard work every day. Your hard work of connecting with clients, of creating personal relationships, developing new connections, and finding more people that you can help in the business. Technology is not going to replace that. So if right now your business isn't where you want it to be, and you're like, well, I'm not going to start lead generating. What's that word? I'm not going to worry about lead following up. I'm not going to have a database. I'm not going to follow up with past clients. If you're there, this new technology is not going to change anything for you. You are going to struggle. The ones that will adopt the technology and mirror it and match it with what they're already doing at a successful level, it's going to make you more efficient. You're going to close more deals in less time and make more money. Everything is built for you to make more money, but technology doesn't replace the personal touch. You will find that people will do business with people they know, like, and trust. So write that down. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. That's not going anywhere. You don't get an email and think, oh, I really like this company who sent this email. I'm going to do business with them. It just doesn't happen that way. That part of the business isn't going to change. Now, why is that? Why is real estate different from a lot of other businesses? The reason is because real estate, there's a lot more emotions. How many people have had a seller that said, have you seen my backyard? I did this by hand, and I put up this fence, and that fence has got to be worth $20,000. I'm glad that you spent that 2 days on a weekend and put that fence up, but that doesn't really change the value of your property. The value of your property is with the other properties in the area, what they've sold for, and you know how all that works. But there's so much emotion involved. When someone's selling their house, they always think it's worth more than it is because it's theirs. When someone's buying a house, they automatically think it's nowhere near worth that. That's way too expensive because the emotion of they're going to have to part with their money and buy something. There's so much emotion in a transaction because the seller thinks they're worth here, the buyer thinks it's worth here, and it's our job to take out that emotion and bring them together. That part's not going to go away. That emotion's always going to be there. So they need a fiduciary. So if you've heard that word, you're going to hear it more and more and more. That fiduciary experience and what you're doing to connect with your client and help them is what's going to set you apart. So let's talk about how you're going to do that. So when we look at remember, it's now consumer-centric. What can you do to help that consumer? Just like Uber did, just like Netflix did, just like Airbnb did. So first, you're going to need to know everything there is to know about the neighborhoods they like, the school systems, where's the closest cafe, what is the shopping like, what is their commute time to work, what can you tell them about the activities and things going on in the area. Everything that you're going to do now is going to be about the intimate details that you can help a consumer understand about either the area they're living in or their house. Can you tell what kind of roof that is and how long it should last in this climate? Can you understand the mechanical functions of a house and be able to explain each one and how they work and what they do? If you ask if you find somebody who is sells medical sales. So if you met anybody that sells medical sales, let's say I'm selling a screw that goes into a knee when you're doing a certain type of surgery. If you ask that person, tell me about your product. They're going to tell you the density, the steel they use, why they use that, why it's better than the other 8 different types of screws you can buy, how the surgery works, where that screw comes into the procedure. They're going to tell you so much minute detail about the process and why, because they understand it at such a high level. And here we are selling a product. Do you understand it at the same level? Do you understand the difference between something that was built 4 years ago compared to 100 years ago? Can you walk into a room and start pointing out the different features and the different things? Not, this is the dining room. I know that because it's got a light and there's a table. But can you go down in the lower level or and this is your HVAC system and this is how your heating system works and it runs off of this and this is the reasons, and go through all of that? Can you go through the difference? This is stucco, this is plaster, this is drywall, and what you can expect in terms of repairs and things like that. Those are the things that are going to make a difference. This building compared to this building. What amenities does it have? What do people really like about it? They're right next to each other. One is more expensive. Why? All those little things, being being consumer-centric, is what's going to change your business and all of our real estate in combined. So that all starts with what? What do we talk about? People want to know, like, and trust you, right? So the first thing they have to do is they have to know you. Then they can start to like you, hopefully. Then they'll start to trust you. So the first step is we have to get to know people. We have to get people to know us. So where's the number one source? So let me backstep. When I built my business, one of the things I did is I realized after my first 12 years of running on a hamster, then I realized, okay, I don't know everything, and I need to go out and find the people that do. So I got some time in Gary's private mastermind. So there's about 100 teams that come together and mastermind with Gary. And the very first time that I got in the room, it was very simple. The room was over here. Gary was in this room doing something. My production level was about this big. I was nowhere near qualified to be in that room. And I waited, and as Gary walked out of this door, I saddled up next to him, and I knew where the other door was, and I said, Gary, my name is Nick Waldner. You don't know me, and my production definitely doesn't warrant me to be in that room, but if you could just let me in and sit in the back, I won't say a word, I won't ask any questions, I just want to be a part of Eldus. And I got to the door, and Gary looked at me, never said a word, and said, so I got in the room and I sat in the back and I was like, oh my God, look at all these huge producers. This is amazing. So I got my notebook. I take it everywhere I go because I'm very learning based. If you're not learning based, you're going to miss out on so much. I'm still that way today. So I take my notebook and I sit in the back and they start talking about this concept and that concept. And I hear questions and I'm listening to all these things. And most of it's way over my head. Most of it's things that I haven't even thought of. Well, when you're hiring your 27th person, I'm like, I don't even have a single person, I'm just me. So what I realized is I'm not going to get much writing down the questions they're asking because it doesn't help me. So what I started to do is I started to write down the names of the people speaking. Oh, wow, that was a really great question. Write that guy's name down. Oh, she made a really good point. Let me write her name down. And then I spent the next 6 months following up with all these people. Facebook is great. Social media is great. Has anybody ever stalked an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend? I have. You can find anybody. So here I am. I jumped on. I started reaching out to people and started saying, hey, I have a question for you. Watch, I'll give you an example. Guys, if you go to my Facebook, Nick Waldner, and you send me a question, I'll answer you. Right? Seems pretty easy to say in front of a room of 700 people. I guarantee I'll get less than 5. Maybe 10 now that I put you guys in a contest. But I won't get many. So I'll answer all of them. And I have no problem doing that because most people don't take the time to actually ask. They don't try to better themselves. They don't go out of their own comfort zone to ask. So I did. And I started connecting with all these great agents. And I asked them all types of questions. Hey, when you were the biggest step you took? What was your biggest difference between this and this? And how did you do this? And where did you do? And I had all types of questions. And they answered all of them. And 6 months later, so that was Mega Camp. The next one was Family Reunion. My production still wasn't there yet. I stood here. I knew where Gary was. Waited for him. He walked out. Blah, 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 blah. Got to the door and he said, I jumped in. I'm not even allowed to tell this story, probably not, but I did this. I did this 3 different times over a year and a half. My 4th time trying it, when I got to this door and I looked at Gary, I felt a big hand on my chest. And somebody said, you can't come in here, I know you. And I looked up and it was Gary's secretary. She had watched me do it 3 times over the last year and a half and she was like, no more, this is not how this works. And I was like, oh man. So then what I did is I reached out to every one of those mega agents, all those top producers that I had met and connected with over the last year and a half. And I asked them, would you please introduce me to Mindy, which is Gary's assistant, and ask her to let me into a room that I have no business being in. Now, there's 100 agents out of that group. I knew about 45 of them. I asked every one of them personally to send Mindy a message. About 20 to 25 of them did. And the following event, I showed up. Somebody was walking over to Mindy, and I walked up and said, hey, can you introduce me to her? I already knew she was. I walked over, and they said, Mindy, have you met Nick Waldner? And she went, why is everyone telling me you should be in Gary's mastermind? And I said, I don't know. What's that? I think that sounds great. And I literally got in, and I've been going ever since, and now I'm in the top 10% of that room. It's the people you surround yourself with and the questions you ask. So if you're sitting there and you're not in a position where you want to be, find somebody who's ahead of you and ask them questions. Go to more educational events. Go to more training events. When Bold, we just did that contest here. Do you know how many times I've been to Bold? 4. Every single member of my team has been to Bold. Every single new hire that we have goes to Bold. If you know anything about QL, which is Quantum Leap, something that Gary is kind of his brainchild that he taught, I've gone to that 4 times. I've taught that 4 times. Why do you teach something? Yeah, who gets more education, you or them? I can tell you right now, there's a lot of things that I know how to do, but until you teach somebody how to do it, you don't understand why you do it. Because when you're teaching somebody and they say, why do you do it that way? And you go, I don't know. It starts to make you think. And then over time, as you teach these topics, you end up getting really good at them, and you understand at a much more deeper level what you're doing and why. So becoming learning-based is going to drive your entire business. And this company is built on that. It's got the systems, it's got the models, and more importantly, it has people that are already using them at a high level. It's one thing to read it from a book. You can quote things from a book. It doesn't mean you understand it or know how to do it. The real-world experience of understanding what the book says and then going and spending time with somebody who's actually doing it, that's going to make a difference in your impact. That's going to impact you at a higher level. So you have to stay learning-based. So now we're talking about mindset. We're talking about kind of understanding how to become more learning-based, how to focus your time more, how to grow your mind as far as what you need. And the whole idea that you can run your business however you want, nobody's going to bother you, that's the worst ever. You want somebody pushing you. You want somebody helping you go to the next level. So the next thing I'm going to tell you is to get a coach. If you don't have a coach right now, you want a specific real estate coach. You want somebody who understands the concepts of KW and can help you learn that. Okay? Now, I'm a coach person in all aspects of my life now. I took up golf. No? Nobody golfs? Okay, well, I'm not a good golfer at all. I'm a terrible golfer. But anything that I want to do, I want to get good at, what do? I get a coach. So I now go and I meet with him once a week for a half hour. And at first I was terrible, and now I'm slightly less than terrible. But I'm improving every day, and if it's something I care about and I want to spend my time doing it, then I need to get good at it. My wife and I, so we've been married 3 years yesterday. So when we started dating and we started, okay, this is getting serious, I think I might have to get down on a knee sometime soon, I realized, what's the most important thing about relationships? Okay, all the guys said nothing. I heard the women say communication. They are right. It's communication. So when I realized, okay, this might be the one, and I said to my wife, hey, great news. I met this communication coach that helps couples communicate. Now, in my mind, what a brilliant idea, Nick. You care so much about our relationship that you want to make sure we're communicating well so that we stay married forever. My wife's mind, instant tears. What's wrong with our relationship? Lesson learned. But as I helped her understand that there's nothing wrong with our relationship, we're great. I've never met somebody I want to spend the rest of my life with like I have with you. I also know that marriage isn't easy. And we're going to go through a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations. We're going to have a family. How are we going to raise? There were so many things that I knew communication could help solve before they ever happened. So reluctantly, I grabbed her and I pulled her into this room. And we sat down and we talked to this woman, and she was fantastic. And she was like, yeah, I work with people all the time that are, in the process of getting married, and I help you navigate the waters, and you're going to have arguments about how the wedding should run and who sits where and all the other nonsense, and I help you with all that. And I was like, yeah. And after a while, my wife kind of understood it, that this was not therapy. This wasn't, hey, we have to fix these problems. This was, hey, you guys don't have any kids yet. What are you thinking about? How many kids do you want? Well, where would you raise them? Would you go private school, public? Like all these different questions that we never thought about. And for a half hour a week, we'd sit down with this woman, complete stranger at first, and just talk and talk and talk and talk. And then afterwards, we'd go and have a nice dinner, and we'd make like a date night out of it. And it ended up being really, really great for our relationship. And now, whenever we have a problem, whenever we have something to communicate about, it's so simple. It's so easy. And I don't have the perfect marriage because my wife has me as a husband. But we've got a much better than most. Life is much better when you understand how to communicate and you have somebody there to help you through that. So the goal of that is get a coach. In any aspect of your life, you would get a coach. So think about Olympic athletes, top pro athletes. Every one of them has a coach. There's a reason. They're at the top of their game, yet they still have a coach. There's a reason for that. So start thinking in your mindset, if I want to change and I want to grow, I need a coach. A couple rules about a coach. One, you have to pay them. If you have a coach that you don't pay, you have a mentor with an opinion. But can you ever turn to your mentor and say, hey, my business didn't grow at all this year. What gives? What do I care? You didn't pay me. You have to have a coach, and you have to hold him accountable. So I pay $1,500 a month from my real estate coach, still to this day. Now, I've gone through several different real estate coaches. In my opinion, you have somebody, it works really well for a year or two, and then it might be time to move to somebody else and keep going so you can learn more and more. So I'm on my latest coach. I've been with him for 6.5 months. And we talk about all types of things outside of real estate. We talk about building the net worth. We talk about, different areas of business, investment properties, syndication, all kinds of stuff. But it's just the progression of my coaching. So get a coach. Pay them money and hold them accountable to what you want. The accountability part, when you hear the word accountability, it sounds like a slap on the hand, doesn't it? Nope, can't do that. Accountability is nothing more than awareness. How many phone calls did you make this week? Most people in the room can't tell you that. But if you have a coach and somebody's holding you accountable, so the next question is, okay, how many calls were you supposed to make? Well, if you don't know that number, how are you gonna get there? So all of a sudden, winning the year comes down to winning the quarter, comes down to winning the month, comes down to winning the week, comes down to winning the day. And those are the numbers that you learn with a coach to understand what you need to do in order to win the day. How many listing appointments, how many clients do you need to meet with in order to make what you want in your income? Every single person in this room, if you don't know the answer to that, that's what you need to find out first and foremost. You have to learn. Maybe it's one appointment a week. And every single day, your mission, starting on Monday, is to find that one appointment. Tuesday, Wednesday. By Thursday, if you haven't had that appointment, you are now putting in longer hours and doing whatever it takes to find that one appointment. The following week, you get that first appointment on Monday. You can kick back for the rest of the week. Or you can press a little bit, but you don't have to work as hard. Does that make sense? Real estate's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And what happens is we're constantly thinking about it like a sprint. We constantly go to something where we get excited and we set a goal for ourselves, and then we run, and for that first 24, 48, you work really hard, but then it kind of wears off, and the rest of life kind of comes in, and, well, I didn't get to the office till 11 o'clock today, and, well, I had to leave a little bit early because I did have that one thing to go to, and life steps in, right? That's because you're setting your goals 1 year in advance. You're setting what do you want to do for the year? You need to start setting your goals on the day and understanding what do you want to accomplish that day. How do you want to succeed that day? Now, the other piece of advice is that day doesn't mean 8 or 12-hour days. It's typically your first 4 hours of your day. So in order to succeed on your day, you've got to start with habits. So you've got to start by understanding what are my habits every single day that's going to help me succeed at the level I want. So very simply, my habit is every day I wake up and go to the gym at 5 a.m. I hate it. You hate it. No, don't clap. It's terrible. I'm a terrible person. I hate it. You guys would hate it. There's nothing great about going to the gym at 5 a.m. Nothing. The only thing great about going to the gym at 5 a.m. is 6 a.m. Because I'm done. And I've tried everything else. I've tried going in the afternoons. I've tried going in the evenings. I've tried going midday. It doesn't happen. Life jumps in, and all of a sudden, I've got to run and show this property. I've got to meet with this buyer, meet with this seller. Something else comes up, and the gym is out, and I've got to go do this. So now I realize, well, my son wakes up at 6:30 in the morning, so I need to be up, showered, have my workout, grab a quick breakfast, and then when he wakes up and goes, Daddy? Daddy? I know, he says my name every morning. My wife hates it. I love it. So at 6:30, I'm in the room, I pick him up, I get some quality time with him. And that's very important to me that I get that time with him. If I would go to the gym any other time, I wouldn't get that time with him. So all of a sudden, waking up at 5 a.m., miserable. In my mind, I'm thinking, I'll get my workout in, I'll get back, and I'll be able to pick my son up when he wakes up at 6:30 a.m. Worth it. Now notice what I did there. I tied a big why. I tied a big why to why I'm going to do something. And then now we're just going to start layering all these other habits on top of that. So I get up at 5 a.m., gross. I'm done by 6 a.m., great. Pick up my son at 6:30 out of the crib, give him a hug, do all that stuff. And now, because I'm already up and wide awake by this point, I've already worked out, I've already showered, I've already had my breakfast. Now I'm like, okay, great. I'm out the door by about 7:30, so I get a good amount of time with my son, and then I throw into my wife, and I'm out the door. By leaving by 7:30, I'm at work earlier than most, and my first couple of minutes, I'm planning out my day. If I don't plan it out the night before, I plan it out first thing in the morning, but before the rest of the world starts. And then the second 8:30 hits, I'm off and running. I know exactly what I need to do for the day. So now let's talk about the ripple effects of that habit. If I don't wake up at 5 a.m., then I wait for my son to cry out at 6:30. I open my eyes, oh my gosh, I forgot to and then I run in there, I pick him up. I still haven't showered, I still don't have breakfast. Then I've got to run around, deal with, play with him a little bit. Then I've got to take a shower. Then I've got to get my breakfast. Then I've got to get out the door. Well, now it's at 8:30, 8:45. And now I drive to work, and by the time I sit down at my desk, it's 9:30. By the time I plan out what I'm going to do for the day, it's now 10 or 10:30. So if I get up at 5 a.m., I'm starting my day by 8:30 and I'm going. If I don't, I don't know, 10:30, 11, who knows? And it all starts with that. It all starts with that workout. So that's why it's so important to have those habits in your life, because they ripple into everything else. Well, then lunchtime comes, and what do I want? Something fried and not good for me, right? I want something terrible but tastes great. I want to have dessert at every meal. But because I got up at 5 a.m. and worked out, maybe I should eat a salad. Maybe I should eat something healthy. So the ripple effect of waking up is over and over and over again throughout my day. Does that make sense? So you've got to anchor yourself into something. You've got to find, it doesn't have to be 5 a.m. I mean, remember, when you walk out of here, don't look at the person next to you and say, was he insane? We're not getting up at 5 a.m. That's fine. That's just for me. But for you, pick something. Maybe you get up and you read every morning and you spend a half hour. Maybe you meditate. Maybe, whatever it is that you want to do. Maybe you do yoga. Maybe you do a spin class. Maybe you do something. But you need to get up and move and get your day started the same time every single day. Because that'll get you to the office the same time every day. That'll get you started on your day at the same time every day. Everybody got into real estate because of why? What's the number one reason to get into real estate? Come on. Money. Right? We're all here to make money. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Don't feel ashamed of that. What's the number two reason we got into real estate? All right, I deserve that. We got into real estate so we could be our own boss, right? Nobody tells us when to be at the office. Nobody tells us when to work. Nobody tells us when we can take off. We are our own boss. How true is that statement? No, think about it. If you have a client who calls and says, yeah, I'm thinking about listing my property. Can you come by tomorrow at 2 o'clock? What would you say? Absolutely, 2 o'clock on the dot. That sounds great. I was really just thinking 2 o'clock in my head. I'd love to be there at 2 o'clock. See you at 2 o'clock. Who runs your schedule? Your clients. Which means the things that you want to do for you, you need to work them into your schedule before your clients are interested. There isn't a single client calling me at 5 a.m. saying, hey, can you come meet with me? I never have to miss the gym because a client wants to meet with me. So layer those habits. Get your morning started. Then it's about that marathon, not a sprint. So how many people in the room have a database? Show of hands. Okay, good. So it's probably a small portion of you. 25% of the people raise their hand. If you add that to the 25% that would never raise their hand no matter what I asked, probably 50% of the room has a database. Why is a database important? Because right now, most of you are chasing now business. Most of you are going after, if you talk to somebody and they say they want to buy a house in the next 2 to 3 months, all over them. 30 days, oh, love them. But if you meet somebody that says, yeah, I'm thinking about selling my house maybe a year and a half from now. How many people say, great, call me, I definitely want to work with you, and then go off in the rest of the direction and never remember that person a year and a half from there? Me? No way. If it was more than 90 days, my little brain could not handle that. I was already off to the next. What you're going to learn, and one of the greatest things about Command, is you're going to be able to start putting those clients in and then putting notes and references of when you need to follow up with that person. So now if somebody said to me, hey, I'm thinking about selling in a year and a half, I would say, that's great. I'd go into Command, I'd enter all their information, I'd make a small note of, spent some time with Jeff and everything went well. He was thinking about selling his property in a year and a half when his daughter graduates from university. Then they're going to downsize. And I make all these little notes. And then I set a timer on that. And it says, call Jeff again in 90 days. Now when I come in the morning, after my workout and the baby time and all that, I come in my morning. What am I going to do today? Easy. I'm going to open Command, and Command's going to tell me who I need to call, who I need to follow up with, who I need to talk to. 90 days will go by. I'll completely forgot Jeff existed. Command will say, call Jeff. And I'll pick up the phone and say, hey, Jeff, it's Nick. I know you were mentioning about a year and a half, and I know it's been a couple of months. Just want to check in. Have your plans changed? Is there anything you need? No, Nick, thanks for calling, but no, we're still good. Still waiting for her to graduate. Okay, great. Well, while I have you, are you thinking about doing anything to the house? Are you thinking about painting? Are you thinking about doing any repair work? I've got a lot of connections, and I'd be happy to recommend somebody if you're looking to do any of that. Oh, wow. Yeah, Nick, actually, my wife and I were thinking about painting. Okay, perfect. I'll send you their information. Hang up the phone. I set another alarm in Command and say, call that guy again in 90 days. Now I call him again in 90 days. Hey, Jeff, it's Nick. I know you're still waiting, probably another year or so before you're ready, but I just want to check in. Did you have a chance to call those painters? I did. They came over. My wife loved it. We got the whole house painted. It looks gorgeous. Thanks again for giving that to me. Yeah, no problem. We're still looking about a year when your daughter graduates? Yeah, that's exactly. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Boom, hit the button in command. I'm going to call again, maybe 60 days now. Maybe I'm going to start calling every other month as we get about a year out. Now I'm following up. That business that shows up, and then finally one day I'm going to call and they're going to say, oh, Nick, so glad you called. Yeah, we're ready to list. Can you come over this week? And I say, great. That business over time is what's going to take you from the level you are now to the next level. So before, I woke up every single day and looked for, you ready to buy a house? No, not right now. You ready? You ready? You ready? Okay, great. That was my business. That's how I fed myself that month. Right? Now, all of a sudden, I talk to 10 people and 3 of them are thinking about it in the next 2 years. I put all 10 into a database. I still find my 1 for this month, but I follow up with those 10, and then all of a sudden, the months start adding up where I find 2 people who are ready this month, and I have 4 people from my last year and a half of talking to people that are ready this month. And all of a sudden, my sales go from 2 a month to 6 a month. Because I'm using a system like Command to put all their information in and stay on top of them and follow up. Now, at first, you're going to say, well, I don't really have a lot of people to call, Nick. Like, who am I calling? So you've got to spend your days doing 2 things. One is lead generating. So the simple definition for lead generating in my world is you're having the first conversation ever with that person. The other option is lead follow-up. Lead follow-up is when you're having your second or more call with them. So like Jeff, the very first call, that was a lead generation call, and then every call after that was lead follow-up. So you set goals every day. My goal is to have 10, 15, 20, depends on who you are and what your goals are. How many new conversations do you want to have every day? And then from those conversations, you understand how you need to follow up with them, what you need to do. The key here is when you're calling somebody, you're not calling and saying, do you want to buy or sell a house? Because that's all about you. And remember, we talked about Blockbuster, we talked about taxis, and we talked about hotel chains. It was all about them, right? And they got left behind because of people that were more customer-centric. So now, what you're looking to do is how can you help them in their real estate needs? Maybe they're looking to refinance. Maybe they're thinking about getting some work done. Maybe they need a new roof. Maybe they were thinking about remodeling the kitchen. Maybe thinking about painting. Maybe they're thinking about their insurance is too high and getting a second quote. Any of that stuff. It's now our job to be the center of their real estate world. If they're thinking new roof, they should be thinking your name. And they can only do that if you're calling and staying connected and making sure they know you're available for that. If they're thinking about painting, they should call you. If they're thinking, oh, my hot water heater went up, they should be thinking, call you. If the roof is having problems, anything house related should be you. I'm thinking about getting an interior decorator. They should be calling you first. So this is where technology is going to change. Right now, we don't have the time to do all that, because we're manually entering things and all our different bolt-on technologies, and we're trying to put piecemeal this all together. Once we have a system that's all running together and all talking to each other, it's going to get much easier. But we have to start with the habits today. The habits today of your lead generation and what you're doing to find new people and follow up with the people that you have a good conversation with. So now let's talk about past clients. How many people have past clients? We're going to reach out to our past clients, and what are we going to say? We already got our check. What are we going to call them for? They already settled. What do you think they know? People looking to buy and sell real estate. When will people talk about real estate the most? When they're in the process of it themselves. So if you have a client right now, and you're thinking, I know what Nick's talking about. At the end of this transaction, I'm going to say, did everything go well? Did you like working with me? Great. Would you mind letting me know if you hear of anybody looking to buy or sell? And what I will tell you is wrong. You've been working with that client for probably 2, 3, maybe 4 months, and they've already had 15 or 20 real estate conversations because it's something exciting happening in their world, and that's what they're currently talking about with their friends, with their relatives, with their colleagues from work. They're already having the real estate conversations. So you need to start your conversation with a new client and say, listen, my job is to make sure that this goes smooth for you. My job is to make sure I remove all the stress out of the transaction. My job is to help you through the entire process and really direct you through the entire thing so you understand exactly what's going on. You're always making the best decision. Does that sound fair? Yeah, that sounds fair. Great. And my team is completely here. Your team could be you. That's okay. My team is here to give you that level 10 service. That level 10 service to us is letting us know that once you're finished with this transaction, that you're going to look back and think, man, I couldn't imagine it being any better. Is that fair? They're going to say, sure. Great. So there's one more thing I'd like to add. One of the things that we found is the lifeblood of our business is not only helping you, but helping somebody else that you know that's thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate. So while we're going through this process, don't be surprised when real estate comes up in a lot of your conversations. I just want to ask you, if I do everything I promised, would you mind passing my name along? Would you mind giving me an introduction to the person you have a conversation with? Did I ever use the word referral? Would you refer me business? No. Would you give me an introduction to somebody that I could help in real estate? That's what we're looking to create. That's the connection you're trying to have with every single client. When you do that, your business is going to start to explode. Your business is going to start to grow. But the only way to do that is to connect with that person, have a great transaction with them, and then stay connected. This goes back to Command, back to your database. One of the very first features that was put into Command is a quarterly follow-up call. Every 3 months, every single person, past client, receives a call from you checking in. How are things? How are the kids? How's the house? Do you need anything? You spent 2, 3, 4 months connecting with this client and building this trust, and then all of a sudden you disappear once they buy the house? No. We want to do the opposite. We want to continue that relationship. We want to get closer. And the great news is, moving forward, they don't really want anything or need anything from you. So the relationship is not about, what can you do for me? It's just about, hey, how can I add value to you? I know you've been there for 3 months. Are you thinking about getting any work done? Remember, if you have any repairs, anything comes up, call me. I've got tons of great contractors. And then you start building a list. Maybe they need a landscaper. Maybe they need, remodeling a bathroom. Whatever it is, that's your goal. Your goal is, how can you help them? How can you add value to them? Okay? Now, just like our habits, we're going to start layering things on top of that. So the next 2 days, we're going to go into a lot of this in more detail. And right now, while this feels more like a monologue, it's the opposite of how I want to teach. I want this to be a dialogue. So over the next 2 days, as we're talking, as we're having conversations, this is your opportunity to ask questions. Well, what did you do when you only had this? What was your first hire? How do you decide on, how to run your team? How do you hold people accountable? What do you do for coaching? How do you hold them accountable to coaching? Tell me more about this. Over the next 2 days, this is your time to invest in your business, right? We're not at home. We're not working with clients. We're here. We're away from our families, most of you. This is your time to invest in your business. Your time should be well spent, right? So over the next 2 days, as you have questions, as things come up, don't be afraid to bring those up. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. And know that a lot of us are here learning at the same pace. Some people might be ahead of other people, but in reality, somebody's good question over here might help 5 or 6 people in the room. They might be the exact question that somebody needed to hear but didn't know to ask. Does that make sense? So over the next 2 days, ask lots of questions. All right, so as we talk about tech and as we talk about the process and how it's changing, the first thing we have to do is understand that it's going to be customer-centric. That's what wins in today's revolution, today's society. Customer-centric wins. So we've got to become customer-centric to ourselves. But now let's talk about some of the future things that are coming in Command, some of the things that are going to make our job easier. So if you notice, most of this conversation was not about how Command is going to change everything in your world. In fact, it was the opposite of that. It was, these are all the things that you still need to do. You still need to pick up the phone. You still need to connect with your clients. You still need to add value. Technology is going to help you. It's going to be a boost, but it's not going to replace that. All the agents that rely on technology to change the business, technology is just going to replace you. That's the whole goal of technology. But we already spoke about how much emotion is in this process and why that and us being their fiduciary is going to hold us into the process. But only if we put ourselves center the transaction, ourselves are now the value add. How can we help them? But let's look a little bit future-wise of what's coming. So as we start talking about this stuff, everybody's heard the term big data, right? Big data, we hear that ad nauseum. Big data, big data, big data. It's so important. It's the gold of 500 years ago. It's the oil of 200 years ago. It's the lifeblood of the economy in the future. So what does that even mean? So big data is it's a connected amount of information that then you can take this massive amount of information and you can make predictions. You can start to understand behavior. So right now, we're all on social media, and I believe Facebook has 1,800 points of difference on every single person that's on their system. So if you and you are both on Facebook, you have 18 different unique things about you, and you have 1,800 unique things about you. What they also know is they have doppelgangers. So if she has these 1,800 stats, there's also this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, who are very similar. So if she does something and likes it, most likely all those other people that are similar to her will like it as well. So they use all that big data that when she buys something, they now advertise what she bought to the other people that are very similar to her. Now, she doesn't know them. They don't know her. In fact, they're just literally lines of code, but for whatever reason in their process and how they work, they understand that those people are all similar. So when you think about big data, imagine it like this. You go to sell a house and you write an offer. And that offer is written in Command. Okay, so it's written in our system. Now, how many other people are writing similar offers? Maybe not on the same property, but same idea, same concept, same area. So all of a sudden, the offer or Command knows when the offer was written. Then they know the day it was ratified. Then they have the inspection. Then they know the day it closes, right? So it has the full loop of information. Then they know when it goes back on the market again, when it sells again, and all that information. And they start piling this all together. And the system's going to be able to tell you eventually, it's not there yet, so this is all future talk. The system's going to be able to tell you, Mr. Realtor or Miss Realtor, you're making an offer of XYZ, and what we found is if you increase your offer by $3,000 or 3,000 euros, and you change this settlement date and you add this inspection, there's an 82% more likely chance that offer is going to get accepted. Because not only do they have your transactional data, they have every transactional data of every other agent across the country or the world. Does that make sense? So it's like this. If somebody walks into Home Depot and they buy these particular 5 items, there's an 82% chance they're going to sell their home. Anybody want to know what those 5 items are? Yeah, me too. I don't know them. But the people with big data do. And then they can turn around and use that information to sell that to as advertising. All these big companies are trying to amass amounts of data so they can make inferences from it, and then they can sell it to us. The good news is the company with the most data is the company that's going to win. KW has got more agents than anybody else in the world. They do more transactions than anybody else in the world. And they're now developing a system where all of that information is piled in together and then given back to us for free. If Zillow had all that information, what do you think they would do with it? They would just hammer our pockets. If Compass had it, if any of these new companies that are out there trying to change the game, their goal is to get all this technology and all this big data and then wipe us all out. KW is the only company right now. There's a lot that are following. So if you watch the news, there's a couple other companies that are going to start making, oh yeah, KW is doing that? Yeah, we're going to do that too. You're going to start to see that because there's going to be a lot of companies that go out of business if they don't. But KW is the one company that's investing in all this information and all this big data and figuring out how to do all this stuff so that we can win and it doesn't cost us anything. It's already built into everything we do. So one of the conversations I had with Gary was, he was very passionate at the moment. And he said, I will burn the whole place down to make this successful. What do you mean by that, Gary? I'm investing millions upon millions of my own money because I know this is what's going to change real estate. So remember we talked about the billionaire who's not on the beach sipping drinks. He's grinding in the office every single day. He's calling agents like me and spending 2 full days with me, and then he does it again and again and again and again every single day. He is dead into this. This is his now baby. This is in his mind, this legacy is what's going to be the difference. He is going to be the single, we're going to be the single company that changes real estate and keeps us all in the direct center of it. And keeping all the other companies like Zillow and all the companies that just want to wipe us out. And the only reason he can do it and nobody else can is because nobody else has access to the amount of information and the amount of data that we're developing. And nobody else has a system that all talks to each other. Nobody else has a system that can pull here, and then bring it all together to make inferences and make ideas. Does that make sense? Right now, we are literally on the cusp of 5 years from now, I'll come back and speak, and I'll just stand up here and you guys all say, God, you were so right. Okay, I'm kidding. But I will do that if you want me to. But this is going to be the change. So, yes, the technology revolution is here and it's coming. It's not there completely. It's not changed our world. And there's going to be several people who think, nah, it's not going to change. It's going to go away. It's not. The same thing happened to travel agents. If you're going to book a flight, does anybody call a travel agent to book a flight? No. But if you said, hey, I want to take a trip to Porto, would you call somebody that has direct information and direct knowledge of where to go, where to stay, the best restaurants to go to, spend your day here, not here. When you stop by here, make sure you ask for so-and-so. When you go over here, you want to take this back entrance so you skip the line. Now we're seeing value. They don't call it a travel agent anymore, but that's exactly what it is. It's still somebody that has unique, intimate knowledge of what you want and can help you parse through all the crazy amounts of information. When we were doing research of where we were going to go, and Porto's one of the towns we're visiting, there's tons of stuff on what to do in Porto. Everybody has an opinion. And it wasn't until we found somebody who truly understood it and knew, and that's who we ended up using to help us understand where to eat, where to go, where to stay, where to park, all that stuff. Does that make sense? So same thing goes here. Technology's coming, and it's going to replace a lot of what we do. But the good news is it's replacing the functionary things we're doing, not the fiduciary. So when we're talking about entering data, when we're talking about a lot of the transactional stuff, these systems are coming in to get rid of all that so we don't need it anymore. But it doesn't replace the fiduciary. So if you're in this business for the long haul, start with your daily habits. figure out what you need to win your day, which means have a coach, have a plan, have somebody holding you accountable, and then go out every day. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So your job is to figure out what that winning the day looks like, and then just win as many days as you can out of 365. Sound good? Yeah. All right, we got two more days of this. Are we ready? Yeah. All right, thank you guys for having me. Gotta get a picture. All right, everyone say cheese.